Okay, in this demo, I'll show how to create perforation around a stamp if you're working on your stamp project. And so I'm going to create a new document, and then that document, I'm just going to do an 8x8, unless you're working right away on individual stamps. I mean, and it's something that you could create anywhere since it's a vector. It really doesn't matter. You can scale it up or scale it down to any size format at this point. So I'm just going to stick to a familiar to us format. We don't need pages. We don't need column gutters, and we probably don't need margins. So I'm just going to create this. And at this point, I'm going to, and again, what's important here to consider is whether your stamps or note the final format of your stamp. If your stamp is going to be vertical, horizontal, square, well, I guess vertical, horizontal doesn't matter, but proportionally where your stamp is going to sit. Because if you make a square stamp but decide later to compress it to a rectangle, you're going to distort some of that perforation, right? Proportionally changing the size, the scale of the stamp. So just be mindful of it, and you might find yourself redoing this if you want to keep the perforation consistent, or the appearance, the perforation consistent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two sides at this point, and I'm just going to make a decision that my stamp is going to be a rectangle, a vertical rectangle, and something like this looks good to me. If you really want to be precise before you do the guides, right? And I'm dragging the guides basically to create a custom guide. All you need to do is click inside of the ruler and drag the guide down and then release it. And if you don't like it, you can always select it, click delete, and it'll disappear. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab either a rectangle tool or a rectangle frame tool. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to create a rectangle. So my rectangle is going to be I'm just going to make it 3x4. I like that format. And that's going to be my frame. So I can use that, right? So now it's 3x4 inches, and I can reuse that either vertically or horizontally. Again, this is purely, um, you know, an individual decision. In the end, I suggest that your stamp should fit into a 2x2 grid. Each individual stamp, 2x2, it should be about the size of 2 inches on the longest side, but you can keep that fairly flexible, especially if it suits the purpose of your message or your design. So now that I have this frame, I'm going to create my guides. I'm just going to go in here. And you don't necessarily have to create the guides. There's a few ways of going around it, but I'm just sort of, I feel like that's something that could be useful to us. So I'll do this. And I'm going to lock. And if you have your grids and guides, make sure that you have snap to guides enabled. Then when you drag in these rulers, the sides, you'll notice that once you bring the ruler close to the side of the rectangle, it's going to snap into align itself with the line itself. So that makes it a little bit more convenient. So now that I have my stamp figured out, I can either get rid of this rectangle if I don't want it. I can click delete, or if I want to hold on to it, and it might come in useful to us, right? I'm just gonna, you can go to your object and you're gonna select lock or use a Command L shortcut. And what will happen is that this will become locked. See this little lock element here? This will not move anymore. So I'm gonna keep it, that way I'm not accidentally moving it. And what I'll do is I'm gonna go and grab the ellipse frame tool, or you could go and use just the ellipse tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little circle, right? I'm going to zoom in so it's a little clearer to us so we can see it. I'm going to move and I'm going to place it right here for now, even though I don't think I want it there eventually. I'm going to just start right there at the intersection of these guidelines and at the top right left corner of my future stamp border. So, and I'm going to use actually here, you can hold Option or Alt on Windows and manually start copying this, right? And placing them as you see fit. I mean, this could be totally interpretational. You don't need to go into logistics of identifying the exact properties of the perforation unless you really want to learn more about it. But in this case, this is we're dealing with pure impression. So you could go this way. You can select the multiples afterwards, right? We can select all of these and then copy and paste, right? And so on and so forth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit differently here. I'm going to actually use the step and repeat tool for the rest of this, and we'll learn about it for when we're working on textures in our assignment 1. And to use the step and repeat tool, you'll need to go to edit and click step and repeat. And let's create, I'm just going to create 15. I want to repeat the circle, basically 15, and I want to repeat it horizontally, right? And what I'll do, this will take some error, some trial and error, but I'm going to start with a horizontal spacing of 1 to 5, so 1/8 of an inch, and let's see what it does. And there you go. So I just created, I repeated this circle that many times. So my next step could be is that I could select that many, and again, pasted, copy and pasted, or I could actually continue repeating this, and I can select this one and then file, edit, step and repeat, and I'll do, let's try 8 more at the same offset, and there you go. And now we've reached the edge of that of the frame. And if this is not quite aligning, right, if you chose a format where it's not quite aligning, you might need to make some adjustments and basically slightly change the side of your stamp and adjust that ruler there, right? It worked out well for me. Here was the stepping. So now that I've done this, I'm going to again select the same the first ellipse tool here, ellipse that I created, right, or circle, and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it vertically. So I'm going to delete this or reduce this to 0, so I don't want to repeat it horizontally, but I want to repeat it vertically. I'm going to do the same spacing, and let's go for, I don't know, 25 and see what happens, and click OK. So that wasn't quite enough, but there you go. I repeated it this way. And what I'll do is I'm going to go back and, oh, I just clicked the wrong selection, edit, step and repeat. And then let's do another 10 just in case. So I'm going to click OK. There you go. And now that also worked out well. Again, as I said, I'm going to delete the rest because I don't need it. You can always go back and adjust your ruler if you need to adjust it somewhere else. So I'm going to go this route. There we go. And then what we'll do is I'm going to do this on both sides, right? Or at this point, I can just select these. I can copy them, and then I can paste and grab this line. And now that I know that that's that many I need, I'm going to place them right here, and I can do exactly the same thing with the ones here. So I don't necessarily have to use step and repeat. You can if you'd like. Again, the same tool can be used in a number of ways. So there you go. And you see that little, when I'm aligning, you'll notice that little green sort of a measurement or arrow shows up in between the gap between. It's basically showing me that that gap remains consistent throughout. It's telling me that that distance is equal to the distances between these individual circles here. So now that I have this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remember that my rectangle is locked. I'm going to go unlock all in the spread. So I'm going to go in and unlock everything so that becomes available to me as a vector. I'm going to select all of this. And what I'll do is I'm going to go to the familiar to us already Pathfinder tool. So under Window, Object and Layout, let's find the Pathfinder. That's our sort of universal shape tool or shape forming tool. And what I'll do is I'll click Subtract. And once the subtract is done performing it, you need to make sure that the rectangle form or shape is behind the circles. Basically, it's sitting on the back. So if that's not the case, if you drew this afterwards, I'm just going to undo here. You need to select this shape, the rectangle, right click on it, and make sure that when you select a range, make sure that it's sitting to the back. Right now it says bring to front or bring forward. It means it's already sitting to the back. If you're seeing it's an option bring to back, just click that and make sure that it bring to back. So I'm just going to bring it to front, right? So now this is sitting on top of the circles. I'm going to right click or control click arrange, and I want to make sure that I send it to back. And now again, when I select this and I click subtract in the Pathfinder tool, I'm gonna get something like this. So, and what I'm gonna do is let's just apply a 1-point stroke to it. I'm just gonna make it black. And if we look, right? There's my perforation, there's my stamp. Again, that perforation could be of any size that you want, right? It doesn't have to be as repeated as mine. And I'm seeing some little things here like that detail. For example, I probably didn't need a circle there to get a nice crisp edge. So what I'll do is I'm gonna click W and click W. I'm gonna do Command Z or edit, undo, new color, right? And I'm gonna edit, undo. Basically, I'm gonna do undo a few steps here until I get my circles back, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this corner circles, actually. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make sure, again, I'm going to make sure this rectangle is selected and it is arranged to the back. It is arranged to the back. I'm going to select this little circle right here. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to do the same with all the corner ones. There we go. And this one delete. Right, and then I'm going to select all, Command A, or you could just do a selection tool with your mouse, right? You could just select that or trackpad and click subtract again. And I'm liking these sharp corners there. Again, if we're going for a particular low level of naturalism here, I like that a little bit better. So I'm going to select and choose black. And then if I look right here, right, here's my perforation, here's my stamp frame edge. So I hope this helps, and I can always obviously help you individually if you have specific questions or you're looking to create another stamp edge. I can always address your questions over email or on the chat again. So copy. So if I just for the sake of example, I'm going to copy this and place one next to another. So right. So now I have two stamps side by side, right, and there's my perforation. Again, you'll have to play with the alignment or whatever you'd like, but here's my two stamps in a book. You know, if I need more, of course, I can add as many as I want. So one thing just to sort of reiterate, and that's something that I discussed at the beginning. So be cautious when you begin. If you decide that this is not the format that you want and you begin scaling, let's say you feel like the stamp is not wide enough, what's going to happen is that you're going to, when you increase the size of the shape or decrease it, right, along one of the sides, your perforation is going to get distorted, right? This circle or this half circle is going to become smaller or narrower than this one. So there's going to be a little bit of a dissonance between the perforation. So be cautious of that. So if you really want to, you know, preserve certain authenticity when you change the scale of these, you might need to just redo this and add more perforation on the side. Or, you know, if it's a slight change and it's not going to be that sort of it's not going to visually reveal itself, the more frequent this pattern, the harder for the eye it will be to identify. So again, it depends on the level of perfection that you're pursuing here. But anyways, this is how you create perforation for the stamp.